Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I hope everyone's having a great beginning to their summer. And we are ending this week. I mean, unless something crazy happens, if Steelers make a big move, I'll always throw an extra podcast your way, as you know. Give me a follow at Williamson NFL. First topic before the break is Pro Football Focus put out their guard rankings and top 32 as they do for every position. And as you can imagine, well, maybe you can't, but the Steelers have both their starting guards qualified. Isaac Seumalo came in 14th and James Daniels came in 20th. Now we can fight about it. Should one of them be 12th or should he be 16th or 21st instead of 20th? Who cares? But if we're close to that neighborhood, it's a strength of this football team. It's a really good starting pair of guards. And if you look at what some of the guards made in free agency this past year, you're getting a pretty good price. These guys are pretty much in their prime or even entering their prime, maybe in Daniels' case. We've talked about maybe extending Daniels. You know, you also drafted a guard/center in McCormick in the mid rounds that I like quite a bit. So let's start with Isaac Seumalo. Here's their write-up. Seumalo has spent much of his NFL career banged up, playing more than 1,000 snaps in a full season only 3 times in his 8 years. So maybe some of you guys aren't, privy to that information back in his Eagles days, with 2 of those seasons coming in 2022 and 2023. So the last 2 years, he's logged more than 1,000 snaps. I mean, so I wouldn't have opened this paragraph by talking about durability problems because he's been tough and durable lately. He parlayed his excellent 2022 campaign with the Eagles into a 3-year contract with the Steelers. So he'll be here for a little bit. The result was a 71.9 PFF overall grade, the 14th best among guards, and his season without allowing a single sack. Didn't allow a single sack. He also allowed just 26 pressures in 2023, translating into a 4.8% pressure rate allowed, which is really good. And this is also something I stole from Pro Football Focus way back when. But his first 3 games in a Steeler uniform were subpar. And then he kind of got it together. I think, some unison with his line mates. And then really was one of the best guards in the league. Now, I don't think Seumalo is one of the best guards in the league. But you could convince me he's 10th, and he's also really smart. Capable of making all the line calls. I think he's going to be really important to Zach Frazier in that regard, lining up right next to him. What I've seen and been told, he seems as though he is the leader in the O-line room right now. A young group. They look to him. You could see it in Latrobe. They would, hang out with him after practice and get tips. He's not real vocal with the media, but he is with his buds, apparently. And I look at it this way, as in 2023, I don't think anybody's going to fight me that Seumalo was the Steelers' best offensive lineman. But if we could get that, if he maintains that level of play, and if we could get it to Seumalo's the 3rd best offensive lineman on the team, maybe even the 4th, even the 2nd you'd take at this point, you're making progress. That's good stuff because this guy is a constant and he's been a really good signing. Now, as for Daniels, this is what they had to say. Again, he was the 20th best guard in the league. Daniels has been an underrated guard throughout 6 seasons and might be considered underrated again. I think that's fair. The former Bear earned the lowest grade of his career in 2023, but has allowed only 1 sack in 2 years with the Steelers. 2 seasons with the Steelers, he's only allowed 1 sack. Sounds underrated to me. He recorded the 20th lowest pressure rate allowed amongst all guards in the NFL and led up 24 pressures in 2023. I also think he's smart. He's mobile. I know he has center capabilities, but he's pretty much settled in at guard. And if you don't know, Daniels came into the league unusually young, like Juju young in terms of age when drafted. He's from Ohio. I think he's from Warren, Ohio, close by. He's within, very much driving range. And even though you drafted McCormick, I would start talking extension with this guy. I mean, he could be a foundational player for you for more than just this contract. Again, he's very, very young. So I really like where their guard situation's at right now. It's one of the absolute strengths of the team that I don't think gets mentioned enough. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NBA and NHL playoffs, all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so where was I going with this? Okay, here we go. I reposted this yesterday, and it's something that's been out there for a little while. Obviously, it's not new news. And I might have brought it up to you at one point. I don't know that we did, and I just want to make sure that we talk about this. All right, let me find this real quick. Where did I do with it? Okay, sorry about that. I was fiddling around with my information and got my thumbs crossed there or whatever. Happens when you turn 51, I guess. Anyway. So Warren Sharp put this out a while ago. So over the last 8 years, every team in the league has played 48 division games. Okay. You play 6 a year times 8 equals 48. Got it? Fair enough. Every team has played 48 division games over the last 8 years. So he put out a list of all the teams that have more than 20 divisional wins out of those 48 possible. So like the Lions had 22, the Colts and Raiders have 23. So they're hovering around 500 in their division. Baltimore has 26 wins out of a possible 48 games. Cincy and the Browns are under 20. You know, I didn't go back and look, but they are under 20. So Baltimore is 26 and 22 in the North over the last 8 years. Okay, pretty good. The Cleveland Brownies and Bengals are less than 20 wins out of 48. So amazingly, in the last 48 division games, the Kansas City Chiefs are 41-7. I mean, you talk about utter dominance of your division. This reminds me of Brady Belichick, and it helps that you don't have the Ravens and Bengals and Browns in your division. But Andy Reid is known for knowing his division. And when you are 41-7 in the last 8 years, and not all those are Mahomes even, in the AFC West, take your hat off. That is unbelievable. Okay, so that's the most, clearly. Dallas has 35 divisional wins over the last 8 years. Unbelievably good. Now, Washington and Giants being in your division sure helps. But hey, you are 35-13 in the NFC East. That's getting it done. Well, guess who's next? The Steelers are only 1 game behind. Over the last 8 years, they are 34-14 in the AFC North, which certainly now is the hardest division in the league, but is certainly in contention for hardest division in the league over the last 8 years. And the Ravens are, the Bengals and Browns have been up and down, but the Ravens have been really, really good in that stretch. Now, we can look at the flip side and say, well, their record must not be spectacular outside the division. It's not spectacular. Obviously, if it was, they would be 13-4 every year. But I do give credit not only to Mike Tomlin, of course, very much to Mike Tomlin, but as the organization as a whole, down to the coaching staff, down to the scouts, that, the pro scouts as well as the college scouts, knowing what the coaching staff wants to succeed in your division. And I know some of those games, Lamar didn't play, Burrow didn't play. It was a week 17 or 18 game that was meaningless. But some of those were in the Steelers' favor too. I mean, a lot of them were Duck Hodges, or a game the Steelers didn't need either. You can look at just the negatives. But 8 seasons, 48 games and you have dominated the division to the tune of 34-14, that's really something. And I've told this story before. The 1 year I was with the Browns, we were like one of the worst teams in the league. We had the third pick in the draft. And the big theme in our war room preparing for the draft was we would, we often started those meetings with a prayer. And then how do we beat the Steelers? Because the Steelers were the dominant team. This was Ben's rookie year time. There's something to be said for that. More than something to be said for that. I mean, I think it's something that gets underrated around the league of why the good teams are good, because they have such an understanding of what their most important opponents are trying to do, how they team build, strengths and weaknesses, play them over and over, and you win. So it's kind of a running joke, that how do the Steelers sneak into the playoffs all these years when they're kind of an average team, which is valid. Well, when you're 4-2 or 5-1 in the division every year, goes a long way with tiebreakers, goes a long way with winning the division, which has happened over that stretch, of course. But I just thought that was really noteworthy in terms of, I'm sure it's important to all 32 teams to win your division, to know your division. But my hunch is it's stressed more inside the walls of the South Side than it is most teams. And they have a very good feel for it. And whoever their pro scout is that is in charge of the division is really the one, all the scheme changes, strengths and weaknesses, injuries, that really is going to keep the coaching staff abreast of what all these teams are doing, big picture, week to week, every little move, bottom of the roster stuff, special teams changes. Oh, they hired a new running back coach, all that kind of stuff. But over an 8-game stretch, if there's only 2 teams in the league, and one of them's Kansas City that wins the Super Bowl basically every year with Pat Mahomes, also with a great coach, that I think you need to give the Steelers a big thumbs up on that. I mean, especially with the Ravens, an organization I respect to no end. Burrow now in the division. Browns have a really good roster. So if you can keep up close to that level of dominance in the North, I mean, you're not going to go away and you're going to be highly relevant. And I know you guys want Super Bowls and playoff wins. I get that. But I don't know if step one, but one of the early steps of being a really important, relevant team is beating up on your enemies. You know what I mean? I mean, the guys you know best. So I thought that was a good way to cap off the week, a positive spin on things. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care.